My mother was a kitchen girl, my father was a garden boy, that's why I'm a unionist, I'm a unionist, I'm a unionist. Have you got it? Okay, you gonna join me?
The idea of this forum emerged when I worked together with people from the Coalition of Immokalee Workers, a farm worker organization in the US, who developed an innovative mechanism to pressurize brands to pay higher wages to the farm workers. They call the type of initiative they develop worker-driven social responsibility in contrast to corporate social responsibility. And they argue that their initiative is successful and effective to improve labor rights because it's driven by workers themselves.
When you talk about labor in a globalized economy, the fundamental change that has occurred in the past, say 25 to 30 years known as globalization, is that the labor markets have been, broadly speaking, deregulated, and within the working classes, the most vulnerable and marginalized workers are suffering the most, which includes women, children, migrant workers.
Garment is a global industry, and the workers who are producing the garment are in majority located in the global south or in developing countries and are in no way benefiting from the fact that garment, which is a global product and going to North America and Europe, is making a lot of profit for the companies in these continents. To how do you correct the balance of the global supply chain, which is very profitable for one region of the world but is impoverishing another part of the world. And this is when we came together to decide that our wage calculation cannot be just at the level of, say, India or Cambodia. We have to decide what it is that workers want and get it from the actual people who are profiting, which is the brands.
I thought it would be interesting to bring together people from all over the world who don't call it worker-driven innovation or worker-driven social responsibility, but basically have the same idea, start from the experiences, interests and visions of workers themselves to develop new regulatory mechanisms for labor governance.
Many times we don't think in a human rights for the people working and feed this animal and produce this tomato, this corn, this rice, any vegetable. That's why we in the CAW designed our own code of conduct to protect our own rights.
We saw a change and affect directly to our lives and improve our lives, and we feel like real human beings.
Where did it come from that we are where we are today? I was a domestic worker. And I was a domestic worker in the apartheid years when we had no voice, and I dare to ask. If we go back in history, we find that domestic workers actually didn't exist. That domestic workers have no labor rights. And if we look at the recent last years, since 2011, when they won Convention 189, we find that domestic workers have now got a voice. We find that domestic workers is behind every campaign and actually empowering themselves to get to the top.
I think the most important thing is workers' confidence and awareness. When workers' consciousness and awareness have been enhanced, it's possible for them to organize themselves and have more impact economically and also politically.
They say domestic workers, and the ILO, it was a famous, don't contribute to the economy. Now it's 67.5 million domestic workers decide on a Monday morning, we are not going to work, we want to see what will happen to the economy.
Sex worker movement is evolving and improving, and start realizing that decriminalization is not the ultimate demand, but actually it's the beginning of the struggle, because even if your work is legal, you still have to face issues around exploitation of like working conditions. People can't deny that we are part of the working class because we don't own the means of production. We only have our body and our intelligence. This means that we are part of a class which is struggling for social justice and emancipation and all that.
I'm saying that you can only build an organization if it comes from workers, because you know what you want.
I mean, if we look at history, it's an history of confrontation and then regulation, then institution that regulates according to the interest of workers.
We have heard of different experiences that work at different scales. Some of them work at a higher and larger geographical scale than the right to their level, but there were some experiences who started from a more local level.
SOS Rosario è come un'associazione di promozione sociale. Gli obiettivi sono la lotta contro lo sfruttamento e il razzismo in Calabria, nella piana di Gioia Tauro. Dopo 2 anni di lavoro con loro, mi è venuto l'idea di creare con loro stesso una cooperativa. L'idea della cooperativa è di dare il più possibile il lavoro ai migranti della piana di Gioia Tauro. Non è facile e non sarà mai facile, però si deve fare.
How you expand this? How does it go beyond the factory level or the farm level?
The Alliance for Fair Food worked with a coalition of Immokalee workers on different campaigns to pressure food corporations to respect workers' rights, and that makes up an entire national network of people across the country who have been supporting the CIW since 2001, maybe even before that when the campaign first began against Taco Bell. And so there's now 14 corporations in total, and we'll do anything we can to engage these consumers to become aware of where their food comes from, who picks their food, and what they can do to make sure that those workers' rights are respected.
We have to expand horizontally. Suppose we have organized and we are demanding something for garment workers in factories. Then to expand that horizon, we really need to think about the home-based workers in the garment industry. Sometimes I do find that workers' organizations get complacent. They get satisfied with their one sector, and that stops the movement from growing. The other thing, in terms of the top, as one reaches out to, say, Walmart or something like that, then we have to be very careful how we sign agreements with the big companies, because they will use one agreement to show the world that they are doing good work, and then they will exploit other workers. So we need to also, when signing agreements with big companies, we need to be in solidarity and take into consideration who else they're exploiting. What is our message so that we build a broader movement and we don't give the big company an opportunity to just boast about itself.
También en la estrategia, cuando se hace una campaña, nosotros también tenemos que aprender a identificar los aliados estratégicos, y para nosotros en este foro hemos podido encontrar muchos aliados estratégicos que nos pueden ayudar, ¿verdad? Entonces, igual planteamos que el movimiento organizado en el mundo, todo el movimiento popular o organizaciones sindicales, ONG, también tenemos que globalizar mucho más nuestras acciones, porque frente a transnacionales que están globalizadas cada día, donde deshumanizan mucho más el empleo, el trabajo precario, la disminución de salarios por más producción para ellos. Entonces, cómo nosotros juntamos nuestros esfuerzos organizativos y cómo también aprendemos a tener la tolerancia entre organizaciones sindicales y ONGs.
I think this forum has played really nice and important role, because they bring us the opportunity to bring different struggles around the world and at one place and share the histories and the experience. I listen a lot of happens in Asia and India and other countries, and absolutely it benefits, because the farm workers struggle, the garment workers struggle, and other workers around the world. It's the same finally, because we fight for human rights, we fight for our families. And when we stay together, we globalize the movement, because the corporation is globalizing and they move all the time. So why we don't move the struggles for workers? We don't care what class of workers. I'm a worker, I'm a human being.
My mother was a kitchen girl. My father was a garden boy. That's why I'm a unionist. I'm a unionist. I'm a unionist. One more time. My mother was a kitchen girl. My father was a garden boy. That's why I'm a unionist. I'm a unionist. I'm a unionist. So that was a song that inspired us. It inspired the ILO so much that the ILO is now the 16th of June. The ILO is releasing their